Hello, I'm Kristen with Into the Light Healing and Bodywork. This practice was designed for someone who was in her right around the cusp of first, second trimester, and we have a focus with this prenatal yoga routine for the neck and helping to alleviate tension and keeping baby safe while we're doing that. So, let's get started. Okay, we're going to start laying on our backs with the baby roll. So that is where we have our legs out straight with one ankle crossed over the other. So let's start with the right ankle crossed over the left. And then the left hand is going to go over the head on the floor. The right hand is going to reach up towards the ceiling. As we exhale, we're going to tuck the chin to the throat. Lift the head, chin comes to the chest. And then we're going to keep that movement going starting from up here, and we're going to use the abdominal muscles and reaching the arm to pull the body onto the left side. Inhale here, and then exhale. We're going to let the pelvis go back to the floor and then the upper back, and then we switch the arms and we switch the legs and repeat on the other side. So that's bringing the chin to the chest and keeping the abdominals working, squeezing together and pulling the self over onto the right side using the abdominal muscles only as much as possible. And then inhaling and then exhaling, coming back onto the back. And we're going to switch. Inhale, exhale, and do the work. Inhale, exhale, do the work. Switch. Inhale, exhale, tuck, lift, and roll. Inhale, exhale, controlled return. Let's do one more on each side. And exhale, roll. Inhale, exhale, return. Last one, switching arm and leg. Good. And then on an exhale, we're going to return back onto our backs. Bring the arms alongside. Bend the knees so the feet come close to the sit bones. Next, we'll do a bridge. And while we're in this bridge, there's so many options for how we can perform a bridge. And if you know plenty of options and you know one that works best for you, please feel free to use that form. Otherwise, let's try to breathe and flow first. So as we breathe out, we're going to tuck the tailbone so that it's kind of like it scoops up, points up towards the ceiling, the very tip of the spine there. And that kind of makes a flattening of the low back. As we breathe in, we're going to let that go. And then as we breathe out, we're going to do that tilt again, but this time we're going to lift maybe the sacrum off of the floor. And then we breathe in and release. Exhale, tilt. Maybe lift L5 off of the floor and then lower back down. Continue flowing with the breath. Lifting one more vertebrae at a time off of the floor. Feel free to have your hands on your belly to give you cues or just alongside. And then once you have the idea of this flow going, try thinking about engaging the neck muscles so that we're pressing the head backwards into the floor as we continue to lift the pelvis, flowing with the breath. You might notice, like I'm even noticing right now, that there are times when my legs are kind of wobbling side to side, and that's totally normal. That's actually a sign of instability and weakness. So it's a great thing that you're doing this exercise because that will help to build that stability for you. Awesome. Let's just do one more together. Breathing in And then breathing out and tilting, lifting. Notice how it looks like I'm peeling my spine off of the floor and then peeling it back down. Great. Okay, next we're going to come up onto all fours. So let's roll onto the side, push up, and bring the knees underneath the hips, wrists underneath the shoulders. I feel like having my toes tucked under here, but you can absolutely have the tops of your feet down. This just gives me a little extra stretch through the bottom of my feet if I do it just right. Next we're going to move through a cat-cow. So if you notice right now, my spine is nice and long and flat, but what we want to do with the cat-cow is similar to the bridge, where we're starting our movement from the tailbone, and we're going to tuck that down, pointing it down towards the floor, and then you notice that the low back comes up towards the ceiling. Continue that movement, that curving of the spine for cat pose, and allow the neck to relax down. As you inhale, we're going to stick the tailbone back so it's pointing more towards the wall behind you, and arching the low back, arching the upper back, lifting the chest forward, and then the head comes up. And that's cow pose, and then exhaling, tucking the tailbone, curving the spine. Inhale. Belly comes down. Try to keep a slight engagement through the abdominal muscles, even when you're in cow pose. That's this one. Sometimes even earlier in the pregnancy, if this is more than your first pregnancy, the second, third, whatever baby, we can feel like we get a lot of belly really fast, earlier than with the first pregnancy. And if that's true for you, it's important to strengthen those abdominal muscles without, in a safe way, without hurting or compressing space for baby. Awesome. So what we're going to do next is just walk our hands forward on the yoga mat and maybe even off. And we're going to bring the elbows all the way down to the mat with the bottom sticking right up towards the ceiling. Kind of resting on forearms here and forehead. Try to engage the elbows together as if you're squeezing a beach ball between them. And then option here, make sure you're looking straight down at the floor, option here to slightly, maybe about 20 to 30% contraction, press the forehead into the floor. Just a little bit if that feels okay. That can get some of the deep cervical muscle, neck muscle activation that we lose in a lot of posture dysfunctions today. And just notice if you get a little bit more release through the shoulders and the scaps. And then we're going to come on out of that one. Hands come underneath the shoulders. Okay, we're going to come into a kneeling gait. So we're going to step the right foot in between the hands, and then lift up the toes and pivot on the left knee so that your left foot comes to the right side of your yoga mat. We're going to cartwheel the arms, so left arm's going to come forward and then reach up, coming all the way out into this position. And then we'll just straighten out that right knee so that we're kind of in, we kind of make a little bit of a right triangle here with the floor. On an inhale, we're going to bring the left arm up overhead. And then on an exhale, we're going to side bend over that right leg. Try not to put pressure through the leg. This is really a core workout. The hand's just here for a tiny bit of support. Anytime you need to come up, please do so. And then we're going to bring the knees together. And then bring the left leg out in the same manner as before. My joints are popping all over the place. Okay, and then we're going to do right arm up in the air. And then exhale, side bend over. Something I forgot to mention for the other side, sorry about this, is to turn your head and kind of, it's almost like you're sniffing your armpit. Try to kiss your right shoulder. Excellent. And then we'll reach up, elongating the spine, bring the knees together, and sit back down. We're going to come into a lounge lizard next. So we're going to plant the hand in the middle of the yoga mat, come down onto the right hip, and lengthen the legs. We want to stack the hips here. Nice straight line from the ankle to the knee to the hip to the hand. We want the arm to be up nice and close to the rib cage. And let the side body open up, get a nice stretch through that right side body. And then we're going to let the right ear to come to the right shoulder. And we should feel a pretty decent stretch through that left side of the neck. Feel free to adjust a little bit to get that stretch. Just make sure you're elongating through the back of the neck. Head almost reaches up and over the shoulder. And we're going to let that go. Bend the hips, bend the knees. We're going to come down onto our elbows for a forearm plank. And we can stay on knees for this one, or if you're still feeling pretty strong, go ahead and do the full expression on the toes. And let's see, we want to keep our elbows underneath the shoulders and try squeezing the shoulders, the elbows together as if you've got a beach ball between them. We want the forearms to be in straight parallel lines. Okay, so ready? Let's lift up. Whichever expression you choose. Whole body is engaged here. Pull the back of the head up, retract it. No looking forward or up. Look straight down at the yoga mat. And then lower down. Let's put the left hand in the middle of the yoga mat, roll onto the left side, and press up for the lounge lizard on your left side. We're going to do straight line from the ankles to the knees to the hips to the hand, and then arm comes alongside the rib cage, slight bend in the elbow. Release your left ear over your left shoulder. Get a nice stretch through there. If you're feeling any collapsing through the upper rib cage, that just means you need to lengthen the spine up and over a little bit more. This is a nice stretch to come to, especially when you get further along in the third trimester. And then we're going to bend the hips and the knees and come into a reclined cobbler's pose. So we're going to bring feet together, and if you have a folded blanket or a pillow or a bolster available to you, we're just going to set that behind the back and then release the body over that, and you don't have to use anything if you're comfortable without. Just release over that bolster and notice how it feels to stretch through the hips here. If you need some blocks or pillows to support under the knees, that feels kind of nice usually. but still allow some stretch through the inner thighs. And here's where we will finish our practice for today. Being mindful about the strength required to have a baby, and just give yourself some props for that, because it's such a journey and such a blessing, even though sometimes it's really hard. By preparing yourself, you are taking the right action, and making a path that should serve you well. Because my head here is, if you look, my head here is hanging a little bit off of the bolster. I'm trying to keep my chin tucked towards the throat, but there's a little bit of a nice traction going on here. So if you're able to recreate that, if you need a little traction through your neck, it just kind of separates the spine a little bit, decompresses those joints. That's a nice little tidbit to add in there, I wanted to mention. And when you feel you've had enough of this, we will use our hands to bring the knees together, tight tummy to engage. Then let's tuck the chin to the chest to lift up and roll onto the side, and then press up into sitting. Thank you for taking the time to do this practice. The light and spirit in me honors and appreciates the light and spirit in you. Let peace be with you.